At night, the river does not sleep. The water turns black, the air grows heavy, and London looks away. Down here, men do not work by the hour. They work until their strength is gone. No clock marks the time. No bell signals the end. Only the tide decides who is finished and who must continue. This is not a story of heroes. There are no names worth remembering. Just faces, just hands, just bodies moving cargo through the dark. If you fall, the river keeps you. If you slow down, someone else takes your place. There is no rest here, no warmth, no way out before morning. This is the night shift. And once it begins, it does not care if you survive it. The river does not change suddenly. It gives no sign. It simply darkens. First, the color. The gray water of the Thames, which seems alive during the day, absorbs the shadow of the city in the evening. The imprints of the lights fade, the shorelines blur, and the boundary between water and sky disappears. Then the sound. The daytime noise of London recedes. Wheels, voices, footsteps, all this remains somewhere higher, behind the warehouse walls, behind the dark rows of buildings. Here, below, something else remains. The splash of water on the piles, the creak of ropes, the metallic sigh of chains. And only after that comes the night's work. It does not begin with an order. It does not begin with a bell or a signal. It begins with the fact that people appear. Alone, silently, as if pulled out of the darkness by the river itself. They converge from different directions, from narrow alleys, from dark staircases, from under the arches of bridges. Their faces are already tired before they begin. Some of them haven't slept since the night before, some from the night before. But that doesn't matter. Time here doesn't count as dreams. It counts as tides. When the water rises, the work becomes more dangerous. When it recedes, it becomes more difficult. And everyone knows it. There are no names on the docks at night. There are only functions. Hands, backs, eyes that have learned to look into the darkness. The light of the gas lamps doesn't disperse the darkness. It only cuts it into pieces. Faces appear and disappear. One step and the person becomes a shadow again. Another and the light touches wrinkles, dirt, sweat, traces of old traumas again. Everyone here knows, if you fall into the water, no one will jump after you. Not because of cruelty, because of a rule that no one wrote. The river takes you away quickly, and often quietly. The first loads arrive before complete darkness. The ships slowly press against the moorings. The hulls grind against the wood. The chains tighten. And in that sound, there is already a warning. Every movement counts. Every mistake costs. Sacks, boxes, barrels, they have no meaning in themselves. The only thing that matters is that they are heavy, and that they are unforgiving. When the rope breaks, it does not choose. When the load breaks, it falls where the body is standing. Such things are not discussed here. They are not spoken about aloud, but everyone remembers. They remember the one who was squeezed between the hull of the ship and the mooring. They remember the one who disappeared into the black water between the piles. They remember the scream, a short, unexpected one that immediately ended. Night docks don't like screams. They extinguish them. The men work slowly, not because they can afford to be careful, but because speed is no help here. It only hastens the end. A step, A stop, a grab, a look into the darkness. Some of them look at the water more often than they should, not out of curiosity, out of suspicion. The water seems still, but they know it's waiting. It's always waiting. The air is especially heavy this night. The fog rises from the river's surface and creeps between their feet, enveloping the piles, the steps, the lower parts of the piers. It's easy to lose your bearings in it. It's easy to take the wrong step in it. The gas lamps are reflected in the fog, as if they're hanging in mid-air without support. The light no longer shows the way. It just shows where you are now. And that's enough. Because here, they don't plan far ahead. Here, they only think about the next few minutes. To get the load through. Not to slip. Not to get under it. And wait for morning. But even morning is not a promise. It doesn't mean the end. It only means that the night has receded. The river remains. Somewhere deep in the docks, a dull thud is heard. Metal on metal. The sound rolls between the ships, echoes, and disappears. Someone stops for a moment. Someone raises their head. But the work never stops. It never stops because of the sound, only because of the body, the weight that doesn't forgive. The night at the docks doesn't get darker. It gets denser. The air seems to thicken between the warehouses, between the masts, between the people. Each breath is heavier than the last. The fog no longer spreads, it settles. It settles on shoulders, on ropes, on the wooden decks of the piers. In the light of the lanterns, it looks almost solid, as if it could be pushed aside with a hand. But it doesn't move. The work continues. It always continues. Now the cargo is moving faster. The ship that docked earlier has to make room for the change in tide. That means there's less time than it seems, less than we'd like, less than it's safe. Sacks of grain, crates of metal parts, barrels heavy with the contents none of the workers will ever see. They move from hand to hand, from deck to deck, from darkness to light, and back again. Every object has its own mass, and every mass has a memory. It remembers the fall. It remembers the blows. It remembers how easy it is to break what is beneath it. No one on the docks talks about weight in numbers. It is felt with the back, knees, wrists. When a person stops for a moment longer than is allowed, it is noticeable. Not through words, through silence. The movement stops, and for a brief moment only the water becomes audible. At such moments, someone is sure to whisper, "Move." Not angrily, not abruptly, as a matter of fact, because weight does not wait. The old decks creak. The wood here has long ceased to be new. It is dark, damp, soaked with years of water, salt, and grease. Some of the boards bend more than they should, some less. Only those who walk here every night know the difference. But even they sometimes make mistakes. The chains tighten. The cranes, primitive and crude, lift the loads slowly, with pauses, as if the weight makes them think. The metal groans. The ropes crack but do not break. Not yet. There is a strange balance in this work. It is not based on calculation, but on luck. Every worker knows the stories. They are not told to the newcomers right away. They come to them themselves, in pauses, in a low voice, between the blows of the load against the tree. About the rope that looked reliable and broke like a thread. About the box that shifted just a few inches, and that was enough. About the man who was standing in the wrong place. In the docks, they don't say died. They say, He didn't have time to move. The wind from the river changes tonight. It comes from below, from the water, cold and sharp. It penetrates under clothes, under skin, under fatigue. Hands go numb faster. Fingers obey less. And this is dangerous. One of the loads hangs a little longer than usual. The chain is taut. The light of the lantern slides over the metal, over rust, over drops of moisture. Someone raises their hand, a sign to wait. Someone else is already standing below them, ready to receive. For a second, everything freezes. At that second, you can always move away. But not everyone does. The load drops, not abruptly, not dramatically, just a little faster than planned. The impact is dull, heavy. The tree groans. Someone steps back. Someone curses quietly through their teeth. Nothing has happened, so far. But every such moment leaves a mark. It is deposited somewhere deep along with the others. And with each blow, there are more such traces. They accumulate like moisture in a tree, like tension in a rope. Sooner or later, something will not hold. The workers are already moving automatically. The body remembers movements better than the head. Step, turn, grab, retreat. The eyes are constantly looking for danger, but they do not see everything. It is impossible to see everything, especially in the fog. Somewhere further, in the darkness between the warehouses, a sharp sound is heard. Metal on metal, but different from before. Short. Wrong. Someone freezes. Someone looks around. The light of the lantern trembles. Then, silence. The work continues again. Because if you stop every time because of the sound, the night will never end. But now there is something new in the air. Not fear, foreboding. The weight becomes more tangible, not only in the loads, in every movement, in every step, as if the night itself begins to press, and someone, very close, takes a step a little closer than it should. Just half a step, just for a moment. That's enough. But not yet. The river has not yet taken its toll on us tonight. It only reminded us that it remembers everyone when something goes wrong. They don't believe in coincidences at the docks. Here they believe in sequence. If a sound sounds strange, it means something has gone wrong. If a light flickers, it means the wind has changed. If someone stops for no reason, it means the body has felt something the mind hasn't yet had time to realize. After that sharp blow, the robot didn't stop. But it became different. Not faster, not slower, just more tense. As if all movements were now made a little more carefully, but without words, without commands. The fog thickened. It wasn't just hanging in the air now, it was tearing the space apart. People disappeared into it after a few steps. Voices became muffled. Sounds lost their direction. In such a fog, it was easy to miss the sign, easy to miss the warning, easy to take an extra step. On one of the docks, the cargo is delayed longer than it should be. The crane is working unevenly. It is not immediately noticed. Almost everything works unevenly here. But this time, something is different. The metal does not just groan. It slides. Barely. Almost imperceptibly. The chain is stretched to the limit. Drops of water run down it, disappearing into the darkness. The light of the lantern cuts out only a fragment, the middle. The top and bottom are lost in the fog. "Hold on," someone says. The word is lost between heartbeats. The man under the cargo is standing correctly, exactly as he was taught. Feet apart, back tense, gaze directed upwards to where the cargo should stop. But it does not stop where it should. This is not a collapse. This is not an explosion. This is a sudden failure. This is a displacement. The box sags a few inches to the side. Just a little, but it's enough to throw off the balance. The rope doesn't break. It just slides across the wet metal. Someone screams, briefly, in a word. The box hits the floor. The impact is heavy, dull, the kind that hits you in the chest. The wood cracks. The chain jerks. The crane stops too late. The man manages to jump back, but not completely. The impact doesn't fall on his body, on his leg. The scream is different now. Not sharp, not loud. It's intermittent, stifled. The kind that doesn't reach up. It settles down, into the fog. The work stops, not because they ordered it to, but because everyone understood. This time, it happened. Someone rushes forward. Someone steps back so as not to get in the way. The lanterns sway. The light jumps across faces. They are paler than a minute ago. Even in the darkness, you can see it. A man lies on the deck. His leg is at an unnatural angle. The cargo is stopped next to him. He didn't crush him. He didn't kill him. But he left a mark. The blood is not immediately visible. In this light, it looks dark, almost black. It mixes with water, dirt, grease. Someone takes off their jacket, presses. Someone whispers something without words. "Alive," someone finally says. This word doesn't sound like relief, but like a clarification. Because in the docks, alive doesn't mean well. It only means still here. The man is pulled aside, carefully, slowly. Every movement is painful. Every breath is tense. No one looks for long. Everyone knows. To look means to imagine yourself in his place. After a few minutes, work resumes. Not completely, not on all the berths, but where possible, yes, because the night is coming. The tide doesn't wait. The ship won't stay. Someone whispers, "Lucky." This word has a different meaning here too, because if today is just a leg, then tomorrow could be everything else. The river is again quietly lapping against the piles. The fog doesn't disperse. It seems to have become thicker, heavier, as if the night now knows what it can take. And she remembered this place, this pier, this blow. This was only the first failure, the first warning. While they haven't shouted yet, they haven't stopped yet, they still pretend it was a trifle. But the balance is broken, and the river felt it. When the mechanism broke. After being wounded, they still haven't gotten back to their old rhythm. They're just imitating it. The movements are the same, the commands are the same, the loads are the same. But something has shifted inside. It's as if the invisible mechanism that kept the night within the acceptable limits is now working intermittently. People feel it, but they don't say it. Silence in the docks is not peace. It's a tension that hasn't yet found a way out. The fog is starting to clear, but not because the night is receding. It's simply shifting. gathering in dense patches between the warehouses, under the stairs, near the bases of the cranes, where it's worst to see your feet, where it's hard to judge the distance. The loads are getting bigger, not all at once, but the next ship is bringing something that doesn't like to rush. Metal sections. Heavy, uneven, cold to the touch. They don't have a clear shape that's easy to grasp. They don't forgive mistakes. The cranes pull them up slowly, creakingly. The old mechanisms are working at their limits. They've been repaired dozens of times, often in a hurry. And each such repair has left a weak spot behind. Tonight, the night is quiet enough for these weak spots to speak. One of the cranes stops, just for a moment. The movement is interrupted, then resumed. Not everyone notices this, but the one standing closer feels a vibration in the deck, as if something heavy from inside has hit the limit. "I don't like this," someone says. The phrase is lost. No one answers. The cargo hangs over the pier. The light from the lanterns cuts the metal, reflects with a cold shine. At this moment, everything depends on the mechanism, on the screws, on the worn teeth, on whether it can hold out for a few more minutes. When something breaks, it's rarely loud. Usually it's quiet. There's a sound that's neither a crack nor a bang, more like a short exhalation of metal. Then a pause. Too long. Too empty. And then the load starts to move. Not down, to the side. This is the worst. When something falls straight down, there's still a chance to move away. But when it slides, when it changes trajectory, the body doesn't have time to figure out where to run. "Back!" someone shouts, but the shout comes too late. A metal section breaks free from its mounting. It doesn't fall right away. It hits the edge of the pier, shifts, rolls over. The impact is loud. The lights flicker. One of them goes out. In the darkness, another sound is heard, a human one, short, hoarse, ragged. Someone didn't have time. Someone stood a little closer. Someone trusted the mechanism. When the light returns, the picture is clear at once. No explanation is needed. The person is pressed to the floor. Not completely, but enough. The blood is now visible immediately. It is dark, thick, spreading slowly, as if it is not in a hurry itself. Someone tries to crawl up. Someone stops him with a gesture, because sometimes it is too late to touch. The person's face is turned to the side. The eyes are open. They do not move. They do not blink, as if they are looking not at the docks, but through them, to where there is no more noise. Someone whispers a name, quietly, uncertainly. No one answers. The work stops completely, not by order, not by signal. Everyone simply understands that the line has been crossed. This is no longer an incident. This is an accident. The crane stands still. The metal creaks as it cools. The river splashes nearby. Its sound seems too calm, too indifferent. They don't pull the person out right away. They do it carefully, slowly, without sudden movements, as if they're afraid of waking something worse. When the body is finally released, it feels lighter than it should be. The weight is gone. Only the shape remains. Someone turns away. Someone watches until the end. Someone stands still, as if the mechanism has broken inside them too. The night is different now. She's crossed the line, and as long as they know it. Now every sound seems threatening. Every movement is suspicious. Every mechanism is unreliable. What has worked for years now seems fragile. The river just keeps flowing. She's seen it before, and she'll see it again. After the night has taken its own. After death, until they freeze, they fall silent. This is a different silence than before. Not a working one, not the usual one. It doesn't help you concentrate. It presses. It lies on your shoulders, on your chest, on your thoughts. In it, every sound seems excessive, and every movement suspicious. The body was taken quickly, not out of respect, out of necessity. They know here, if you leave it any longer, the work won't budge until morning. And morning doesn't cancel the night's duties. When the wooden stretcher disappears into the fog, a stain remains on the floor. They try to wash it away with water from the river, but the water only stretches the dark trace, makes it wider, more indistinct. It doesn't disappear. It simply becomes part of the tree, just like memory. No one talks about what happened. They don't repeat the name. The details are not discussed. There is an unspoken rule in the docks. The fewer words spoken after a death, the faster the night will go on. But the night does not go on. Work resumes slowly, not immediately. First, someone raises a lantern. Someone checks the ropes. Someone silently changes places, as if trying to stand further away from where it all happened. The broken crane is no longer in use. It stands as a dark shadow over the dock, like a reminder. Other mechanisms take on more of the load. They are not designed for this, but they are not asked. Every load now seems heavier. Every movement is slower. Every step is more final. A new smell appears in the air. Metal, grease, moisture, and something else. Something that is not named. Something that always appears where death has just happened. Someone coughs. Someone takes off their hat, wipes their forehead, although it is cold. Someone looks at the river longer than necessary, because now it is no longer an abstraction. It is a participant. The river moves slowly, almost indifferently. It has accepted the imprints of events and has not retained them. The water has washed away the scream, the blood, the footprints of shoes. But it remembers, always remembers. On nights like these, people begin to make mistakes more often. Not because of inexperience, because of fatigue that has become deeper, because of tension that finds no outlet, because of fear that is no longer hidden. One of the workers trips on a flat spot. He doesn't fall hard, he gets up quickly, but his hands are shaking. He hides it, clenches his fingers, grabs the rope again. Someone notices. No one comments, because now everyone is not looking at the cargo. They are looking at each other. Everyone assesses. Who is too slow? Who is too tense? Who could be next? In the docks, this is also a form of security. Closer to midnight, a new risk appears. The tide is rising. The water is coming closer to the decks. Some planks disappear under a thin layer of river darkness. The line between solid and moving is blurred. Now, one wrong step is enough. Someone slips, doesn't fall, catches their balance at the last moment. The heart beats loudly, so that it seems that everyone can hear it. But no one looks around. Everyone is busy with their own fear. The night drags on. It doesn't hurry. After death, time always behaves strangely. It stretches, as if checking how much more it can take. And somewhere in the depths of the docks, a new sound is heard. Not a blow, not a crack, but something dull, wet, as if a heavy body had touched the water. The sound quickly fades. Someone freezes. Someone raises a lantern. Someone looks at the dark surface of the river, but no one sees anything definite. It seemed, someone says. This word does not reassure anyone, because now everyone knows. The night has already taken one, and if it wants to, it will take more. Water rises. Water doesn't come suddenly. It doesn't rush in. It creeps in. After death, it is noticed differently. What once seemed like a background is now a presence. The Thames is rising slowly, almost imperceptibly, but the decks are the first to know. The moisture is creeping up the wood, making it slippery, dark, dangerous. The boards that looked solid during the day are now giving way under the weight. They don't break. They betray themselves gradually. The workers feel it with their feet, through the soles of their feet, through their knees. Every step is now a test. The light from the lanterns is reflected in the water at strange angles. The shadows are lengthening, twisting, moving differently than they should. It seems as if they have changed shape themselves, as if the night has shifted everything a little to the side. The tide is stronger today. Some say it has happened before. Some are silent. Those who remember too well are always silent here. The ropes are pulled lower than usual. The ships shift their positions slightly. They do not stand still, they breathe with the water. And this breathing can break a person if they find themselves between movement and immobility. One of the decks partially disappears under the water. Not completely, just the edge, but it is enough to erase the boundary. In the darkness, you cannot see where the tree ends and the river begins. Careful, someone says. The word is lost in the splash. In such conditions, work becomes slower, not out of caution, out of necessity. Each load must be held longer. Each movement requires confirmation. People speak more often, but more quietly. Commands are short, cut short. And then something happens that everyone expected but could not name. Someone slips. It is not a fall, it is a loss of balance. A foot slides on a wet tree. The body leans forward. The hands try to grab onto something that is not there. The scream is short, sharp, and then silence. The splash of water sounds too loud. The lanterns turn sharply. The light runs across the surface of the river, cutting out waves, piles, shadows. Someone sees movement. Someone thinks they see. The water is dark, dense, opaque. "There!" someone shouts. The rope is thrown almost at random. It falls into the water, cuts the surface, disappears. Someone pulls. Someone leans over the edge. It is dangerous. Everyone knows this. But it is too late to stop. For a second, it seems that a body appears. An arm, a shoulder. But it is only a wave. Only the deception of the light. The Thames does not give up immediately. It pulls downward, coldly, by the weight of the clothes, by the current. After a few seconds, everything becomes clear. The movement in the water disappears. The surface calms down. Only the rope sways slowly, wet and heavy. No one says the word died. No one says drowned. They say, gone. The search continues for some more time. Not long, enough to say that they tried. The lanterns guide the water. Someone goes in up to their knees, then up to their hips. They pull him back, because the river is stronger today. When the attempts stop, no one argues. Everyone understands. Now the body is a matter of the morning, if at all. The work does not stop completely. Some of the docks continue, some do not. The night is shattered to pieces. Some work as if nothing has happened. Some stand, not knowing where to put their hands. The water is everywhere now. It shines. It moves. It is present. And everyone knows, if it took one today, it will take more if it is allowed. The river rises further, slowly, inevitably. And still, old and heavy, they creak, as if trying to hold on. But the night is not over yet, and the water has not yet said its last word, when fear becomes common. After the water has taken a person, the docks are forever changed. This is no longer a place of individual risks. This is a space where every move affects the others. The workers no longer keep their distance, not because they have become braver. On the contrary, they come closer instinctively, as if proximity can protect. But on the docks, proximity is another danger. When one stops, the other stumbles. When one panics, the other does not have time to understand why. After disappearing into the water, no one returns to the same positions. People change places without a word. Some move further from the edge. Some, on the contrary, find themselves where they did not plan to be. Thus begins the chain. The night is filled with short commands. Careful! Stop! Wait! But the commands get confused. Some people hear the wrong thing. Some don't hear at all. The fog returns again, heavier now, wetter. It slides along the ground, rises to the knees, conceals dangerous places. The light from the lanterns is not enough. It creates islands of visibility, between which there is darkness. People move from island to island, not knowing what is between them. In such a space, one mistake is enough. At the other end of the docks, the ship begins to shift. Not sharply, barely noticeable. The tide presses on the hull, the ropes tighten. One of them looks reliable, but it is old. It has been replaced partially. The knot is tightened in a hurry. When the rope gives way, the sound is like a gunshot. The ship jerks. Metal grinds against wood. The cargo on board shifts. The people on the pier do not immediately understand what has happened. But the body understands before. Someone runs. Someone screams. Someone freezes. Chaos begins, but not loud. It's not panic with screams. It's chaos with wrong movements. A collision, a jostling, a loss of rhythm. One worker falls. He's picked up immediately, but another stumbles over the same person. The chain starts working. The crane, which should have been stopped, moves for a few more seconds. That's enough. The load sways. It doesn't fall, but it's threatening. "Move away!" someone shouts. People move in the wrong direction. In the crush, someone finds themselves pressed against the railing. The metal is cold, slippery. The water is already close. The level has risen another few inches. There's less space. A wheezing sound is heard. Not a scream. Not the sound of falling. Just air that's not enough. When the situation stabilizes, they don't count right away. They don't like to count at night in the docks. But the eyes search for familiar silhouettes, and one is not found. He is found later, between the ship and the pier, pressed, without movement. This time no one tries to help. Everyone knows it is too late. The night has taken another one. Not by water, not by mechanism, but by fear that made people move incorrectly. Now the docks no longer work as groups. They exist as a crowd, afraid to fall apart. Everyone looks at others but thinks of themselves. The river is nearby. The mechanisms are working. People are tired, and the night is still going on. Now the danger is not in a separate place. It is everywhere, in every movement, in every decision. These are no longer accidents. This is a system that has failed. And while they feel it, when everything moves at once. The night doesn't give you any warning when it decides to take more. It simply waits until everything is in order. After the second body, until they no longer try to seem controlled. Control is a luxury that this night does not allow. Now everything is held by inertia, by what has already been started and cannot be stopped without consequences. The tide is reaching its peak. The water is coming so close that some of the decks seem to float. The ships are moving more strongly than before. The ropes are taut like strings. The wood creaks not from weight, but from tension. The lanterns are reflected in the water in broken lines. The world seems distorted. People move carefully, but not in sync. Everyone thinks about their own plot, their own step, their own fear. It is at such moments that the night brings everything together. A problem arises again on one of the cranes. Not a new one, the same one that has already made itself felt. The worn-out mechanism works with a delay. The cargo rises above the water, hangs. Below it is a space that can no longer be considered solid. When the crane stops, it looks like a relief, but it is only a pause. The ship shifts at this moment, not sharply, but enough. The ropes creak. One of them sags. The second holds. The third, no longer. The sound of a rupture cuts through the air. The ship moves away from the pier a few feet. Not much, but this is enough for the cargo suspended above the water to begin to swing. The movement is slow, pendulum, dangerous. "Move away!" someone shouts. Not everyone has time. The cargo does not break completely. It hits the side of the ship, splits, and part of it falls down. Metal and wood disappear into the water with a dull thud. The wave covers the deck. People are washed off their feet. Someone falls into the water. Someone hits the piles. Someone finds themselves under a load that shouldn't have fallen there. The light disappears almost completely. Several lanterns go out at the same time. The darkness becomes absolute. In it, you can only hear screams, blows, splashes, heavy breathing. This is no longer an incident. This is an accident. The remaining ropes break one by one. The ship sways. The decks crack. The water comes in faster than people can get away. Someone tries to get out of the water. He is being pulled. But another breaks down. Someone drowns silently. Someone screams until he chokes. The river no longer just accepts. It moves. It works together with the night. When the light finally returns, the picture is fragmented. Parts of the pier are broken. The cargo is scattered. The ship is at the wrong angle. People, wet, dirty, wounded, are trying to figure out who else is here. They count slowly, not out loud, with their eyes. Some are not found. Some are found too late. Now they are completely silent. No one works. No one moves unnecessarily. Even the mechanisms seem to have stopped by themselves. The night has reached its peak, and now it allows a pause. But this is not the end. This is just the place where it becomes clear. From now on, the night will be different. Silence after a major accident until they sound. They are silent. It is not the silence of relief. It is not the silence of the end. It is the silence in which every sound has been consumed. The water is slowly receding, not because it wants to. It is simply that the tide has passed. The waves no longer roll with the same force. The surface of the Thames is leveling, becoming smooth, almost calm, as if the night is trying to look innocent. But for now, they know better. People stand where they are. No one returns to their places. Places no longer exist. There is only the space after the screams, after the blows, after it has become clear. Not everyone will get out of here on their own. The lanterns burn unevenly. Some have not yet been relit. The light falls in spots, illuminating the wreckage, broken planks, twisted ropes, opened crates. What should have been cargo now looks like garbage, and in between are people, wet, dirty, immobile. Someone sits on the edge of the deck, their feet dangling over the water, not looking down. Someone holds a hand, pressing it to their chest, as if checking if their heart is still there. Someone just stands there, not blinking. Now everyone is counting, silently. They count those who are nearby, those who look back, those who can be touched. And they don't count those who are not there. The names still don't ring. They will appear later, on paper, in conversations, in brief explanations. Names are too heavy now. They make the losses real. Someone tries to light a cigarette. The match goes out. The second one does too. The third one flares up, but his hands are shaking so much that the fire almost immediately falls on the wet wood and disappears. Breathing evens out slowly. Thoughts even slower. Several wounded are taken aside, not organized, not according to plan, simply to where there is less debris and more space. The blood is now more clearly visible. It is not flowing. It lies, dark and thick, as if it has tired itself. The river splashes softly. Its sound becomes the background again. But now it sounds different, not as a threat, as a reminder. The body that was not found before appears of its own accord. The water gives it away when it sees fit. It is stuck between the piles, almost invisible in the shadow. It is not noticed immediately. When they are noticed, no one screams. Someone takes off their hat. Someone turns away. Someone watches until the end. This is no longer a shock. This is acceptance. The night now behaves as if nothing special has happened. It drags on. The stars do not appear. The sky is overcast. The air is cold, damp, ordinary. And that is what scares me the most. Because the world has not stopped. It has simply moved on, leaving the docks with the consequences. Someone says that people from the city will come soon. Someone says that work will stop until morning. Someone says nothing, because they understand that the docks at night never stop for long. Now everyone here knows that he survived, but they do not know why exactly. This thought does not give peace. It is heavier than fatigue. It is heavier than the cold. It stays for a long time. And when someone finally takes the first step towards leaving the docks, he does not feel relief, only emptiness. Because part of the night has gone with him. The river is behind. The docks are behind. But silence is not. She will go home with them when the light comes. The light does not come all at once. It does not cut through the night abruptly. It seeps. First, as a faint grayness in the sky above the Thames. Then, as the blurred outlines of buildings slowly taking shape, until they no longer seem limitless. They become concrete again, old, damaged. Morning brings no relief. It brings visibility. What had been only sounds and sensations during the night now has form. Broken decks, tilted cranes, cargo scattered in disorder, as if thrown with malice but without purpose. The water has receded, leaving behind wet tracks, dirty streams, dark stains, and bodies. Those that have been covered, and those that have not. In the morning light they look different, smaller, lighter, as if the night had taken something important from them and taken it with it. Their faces are calm, too calm for what has happened. The people who survived the night now move slowly, not out of fatigue, but out of caution. The light is no help. It only highlights every danger, every crack, every place where things could have gone differently, but didn't. Some count the damage. Some count the losses. Some count nothing, because the numbers now explain nothing. Gradually, outsiders appear. Not the ones who worked here all night. Others. Cleaner. With words, papers, brief questions. They watch and take notes. They watch longer than they should. The workers are silent. Not out of fear, out of exhaustion from explaining. How do you explain the night to someone who hasn't seen it? The light touches the water. The Thames looks normal again, almost peaceful. She leaves no traces. She leaves no evidence. Everything she took is now either far away or no longer anyone's. Someone finds a hat. Someone finds a shoe. Someone finds nothing. These little things weigh more than the debris. They speak of a presence, of a person who was here, standing, working, breathing, and now not. When the sun rises higher, while they look almost ordinary, that's the worst. Because now everything seems like it could happen again. And maybe it will. The workers are allowed to leave. Not all at once. Not with relief. Just to leave. They leave slowly, without looking back. Some carry the night with them in their eyes. Some in silence. The light doesn't wash away the darkness. It only shows where it was. And when the untils are finally almost empty, it becomes clear. The night is over, but history is not. It has simply changed shape. The morning has recorded everything. Now it remains to decide what to do with it. What leaves? After the light has done its work, until they no longer seem dangerous, they seem empty. This is a different form of threat, not the one they run from, the one they stay in. The workers disperse in small groups or alone, No one jokes. No one discusses the night out loud. Words seem out of place, as if they might ruin something, or call it back. The city is already waking up. Carts roll down the streets. Shops open their shutters. People who weren't at the docks are starting their day. They pass by, unaware that a few hours earlier the decision was being made here about who would go home, while they remain behind. But they don't disappear. Those who leave feel it immediately. The fatigue is not ordinary. It's not in the muscles. It's in the head. In the way memory returns again and again to moments that cannot be changed. A step someone else took. A rope that couldn't hold. A wave that rose a little higher. These little things now live separately. They appear without warning, in silence, in a dream, in the noise of the street. Some of the workers won't return here for days. Some never. But most will, not out of courage, out of necessity, until those who depend on them are let go. The events of that night will be talked about, carefully, later, in pubs, in whispers. Everyone will tell a slightly different version, not because someone is lying, but because everyone saw something different. For some, the night ended with a fall. For some, with a scream. For some, with the silence after. History will begin to erase the sharp edges. The words will become softer. The details will be less clear. This is also a way of survival. But while they remember differently, they do not forget the places where the mechanisms broke. They do not forget the areas where the water came in too quickly. They do not forget the piles between which the body got stuck in the morning. The next night, the workers will go around these places a little wider, without looking, instinctively, as if the space itself tells them, it was here. The city does not stop. It never stops after several lives down by the water. For London, it is just another night, another record, another date without details. But for those who have been there, the night continues. It returns in dreams, in the sharp sound of metal, in the smell of moisture and grease. It reminds them of itself when they least expect it. And over time, the pain dulls. It does not disappear. It dulls. People laugh again. They work again. They stand at the edge again, looking at the water. But something is different about them. Something they have learned not to feel. Something, on the contrary, they feel too keenly. This is what remains. Not names, not numbers, not reports, but a quiet change within. And yet, old and worn out, they stand still, waiting for the next night, the next tide, the next coincidence, because they know the night always returns. The circle of night water. Night does not go away completely, it only retreats. Even after the docks have emptied, after the daylight has done its work, after the names have appeared on the lists, night remains here. It settles between the piles, in the cracks of the wood, in the cold air above the water. The Thames flows on, just as it has flowed before, just as it will flow after. It does not change direction because of events. It does not slow down. It does not stop to look back. That is its strength and its indifference. The next night until it fills up again, not all at once, not so loudly. But they will come back to life. The lights will light up again. The ropes will tighten again. The mechanisms will speak their metallic voices again. and the people will come again. Other faces, other hands, the same fatigue. Some of them had heard about that night, some hadn't, but it didn't matter much, because until they put the memory into words, they put it into feelings. A little longer stop at the edge, a little slower step in the fog, a little tighter grip on the rope. That's what legacy is, not monuments, not inscriptions, but small changes in behavior that can't always be explained. The river sees it the same way. It takes footprints and washes them away. It takes sound and absorbs it. It takes bodies and returns them when it sees fit. For it, there's no difference between a night of disaster and a night of ordinary work. The only difference is for people. Those who survive will live on. They will work. They will return home. They will sit in silence, listening to the water flowing far away. And they will not always know why that sound makes them freeze. But that night, until they remember them all, those who left and those who stayed. Because until, like the river, they are not judged. They simply wait, waiting for the next tide, the next shift, the next night. And if you listen to this story now, in silence, in the dark, before going to bed, know, what you are hearing is not just a story about the past. It is an echo of a place that has always existed, and perhaps still exists, in every night job that no one sees. If these stories help you slow down, calm down, or just be alone with the silence, you can stay here. Subscribe to the channel, and come back when the night gets too loud again. And now, let the water flow, and the night is over.